Look at this lovely lady. She may look a bit shy and hesitant as she is presented to the Assyrian general Holofernes. But don't get fooled by her, as she is also depicted like this by Caravaggio. Her name is Judith and her innocence seems to be gone here. And what about this one by Jules-Joseph Lefebvre? We can now see that she carries a sword and that she is determined to do something terrible with it. The story of Judith beheading Holofernes comes from the deuterocanonical book of Judith, chapters 10 to 13. Holofernes was a general in the Assyrian army and was planning to destroy the Jewish city of Betulia in which Judith lived. The Jews had no chance against the army of Holofernes and considered surrendering. Judith was a beautiful woman and widow, and when she heard about these plans, she decided to try something to prevent this. Together with her maid, she left her city and was taken into custody by the Assyrians. When asked what she was doing, she told them that she deserted her own people and that she had information for the general on how to take possession of her city without losing a single man in combat. But not only her city, but her whole country until Jerusalem. So 100 soldiers escorted the stunningly beautiful Judith to the tent of the general Holofernes. And that is what is shown in this painting from the 1720s by Antonio Giannima, with which I started this video. Judith being presented to Holofernes. With an impressive speech, she convinces Holofernes of her plan. Her life will be spared and she can stay in their camp. On the fourth day, she was invited to a banquet that Holofernes gave to his servants. Holofernes had been longing for the gorgeous Judith for days, and this was the evening he decided to make his move. According to the story, that evening he drank a great quantity of wine, more than he had ever drunk on any day since he was born. After the lavish banquet, all servants left, and Judith was left alone with Holofernes in his tent. She said a quick prayer and went to the bed where Holofernes was waiting for her, picked up his sword, grasped the hair of his head and said, "Strengthen me this day, Lord, God of Israel." Then, with all her might, she struck his neck twice and cut off his head. And that is the moment that most artists across art history chose to depict. And it's also a moment where I would like to pause the story, as most artists depict this in a way that is different from the biblical story. Let it be clear that there's absolutely no problem in painters using their artistic freedom to express themselves. For example, this work from 1892 by Lefebvre shows Judith already with the sword of Holofernes, taking a moment before approaching his bed to decapitate him. But my interpretation of the story is that she picked up the sword, said a quick one-sentence prayer and immediately did her business. But whereas this is still open to some interpretation, the biblical story is clear that Judith was alone with Holofernes in the room and that her maidservant was waiting outside, like in this painting by the Brazilian artist Pedro Américo, and this one by Simon Fouet. This is just different from the many depictions where her maidservant was present or actively helped her with the decapitation, like in the works of artists like Caravaggio, Artemisia Gentileschi, Valentin de Boulogne, and this version from 1659 by Jan de Bree. According to the biblical story, Judith's maidservant was waiting outside. It was part of Judith's Masterplan. She had convinced Holofernes that she could go out with her maidservant to the valley outside of camp to pray every night, in order to know when the perfect moment was to start the attack on the Israelites. So she picked up the head of Holofernes by his hair, went out of the tent where her maidservant was waiting with an empty food bag or basket in which they put the head. And that is another popular moment among artists who chose to portray a slightly less violent moment from this story. Artists like Andrea Mantegna, Paolo Saraceni, Titian, and Paolo Veronese got it right here, with a servant holding an open bag in which Judith will place the head to get it safely out of the Assyrian camp. Other artists like Tintoretto deviated a bit from the biblical story, with the servant having entered the room to help with the cover-up. After putting the head in the bag, they went out to pray in the valley as usual, except this time they continued to climb the mountain to their native city of Bethulia. You can see Judith and her maidservant here on their way back home, as captured in 1470 by Sandro Botticelli. When approaching the gate, she shouted, "Open! Open the gate! God, our God, is with us! Once more, he has shown his strength in Israel and his power against the enemy, as he has today." Jules-Claude Ziegler created this painting in 1847 with Judith showing the head of Holofernes at the gates of Bethulia. The biblical story has the events slightly differently, with the whole city of Bethulia gathering in the night to celebrate the unlikely return of Judith, who then, in front of all of them, took the head out of the bag and showed it to them. She told them, "Here's the head of Holofernes, the ranking general of the Assyrian forces. And here's the canopy under which he lay in his drunkenness. The Lord struck him down by the hand of a female. Yet I swear by the Lord who has protected me in the way I have walked, that it was my face that seduced Holofernes to his ruin, and that he did not defile me with sin or shame." Let me quickly finish the story, as there are not many artists who focused on the aftermath. The next morning, the people from Bethulia pretended to get ready for an attack on the Assyrians. So the Assyrian guards warned their camp to gather their weapons and go to the tent of Holofernes, where they will find the decapitated body of their general, as captured here by Botticelli. They panic, flee, and will be defeated. Of course, there is more detail to the story, and I can recommend you checking out the full biblical story. And if you find the Bible a bit difficult to read at times, I can recommend the English easy-to-read version, which presents the story in pretty accessible language. I'll put a link to the story down below. Finally, I tried to find as many works related to this story, and I am curious to hear in the comments section down below which one speaks most to you, or if there are any versions you are aware of that I did not include in this video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be alerted by YouTube when new videos are released. Thanks for watching.